So, for those who don't know me, my name is Tom O'Donnell. I teach in the business school. My focus is on courses related to entrepreneurship, new venture creation, innovation management, and some general strategic management. So the whole focus on gaining advantage from and being successful in delivering products, solutions, technologies to customers, satisfying their needs, doing it in such a way that is profitable, that is sustainable, and allows you to continue to do what you're doing from a business standpoint. Continue to make new products, sell those products, pay your employees, some point go public, make lots of money, donate lots of money to UMass Lowell, everybody's happy, right? That's in the contract, right? Right. So tonight, we're going to be talking, and we can take this in any number of directions, but and company have asked me to talk about business models. But I'm going to broaden that just a little bit and talk more about just kind of business rationale around what you're trying to do, your ventures. Now the DifferenceMaker program as a whole is focused on, it's not entirely true, there's some, on people who are at the fairly early stages of their venture development, of their company, project, nonprofit development. But this type of stuff can apply to just about any stage of a venture. When I say venture, I mean a business, a company, an organization that's focusing on delivering whatever that product, solution, service is to a group of people who want it, who will use it, and as importantly, will pay for it. And if they don't pay for it, in the case of some nonprofits, that somebody else will pay for it so that they can take advantage of it. Government agencies, foundations, people with lots of money who want to help out folks who are potentially less fortunate. But whether you are a for-profit or a nonprofit, you still have to focus on that underlying business rationale of creating an entity, creating an organization, creating a company that's focused on taking whatever that idea is and mapping it to something meaningful for, and I'll use this term, for a customer, for somebody out there in the market. Person who's experiencing the pain, who, if you solve this problem, they will adopt it, they will use it, right? So when we think about that, now, before I jump into the business model stuff, from a stage standpoint, going from, okay, I'm taking a shower, get a great idea, boom, right? All the way through to fully functional, working product that I can manufacture, that I can distribute, that I can sell, that I can support. So going from on one side, so here's the spectrum, right? From idea to so going from just an idea to that full product, to that piece that you're going to be able to put in front of somebody that they're going to be able to use. What do you think those stages, now, how many of you are thinking about technology ideas? Technology-based ideas. 1, 2, 3. You guys are more technology, don't you think?
Yeah.
Huh?
I'll do a half raise.
Are you listening?
Mm-hmm.
Technology, right? Yeah. Technology. Would you agree? Okay. Okay.
Half what?
How many are thinking more non-profit related? How many are thinking more like a family business, like a pizza joint or a hairdresser or there's something, doing plumbing, doing real estate investment, and having a real estate company, stuff like that. Technology, non-technology, for-profit, non-profit. Those are basically the four. So you're in one of these four. Because we're at a technology school, there's a lot of research, a lot of stuff going on in the labs. Tend to see a lot of technology ideas. Because we're also fine arts and humanities, health sciences, criminal justice, business. Other schools see a lot of non-technology ideas too. There's no one right thing. So any idea is valuable, but the methodology to go from idea to something meaningful that you can then get out there, put it in front of somebody, pretty similar. So going from idea with probably something like validate that name, talk to people. Does it make sense? Is there a real problem that it addresses? Does anybody care? Is there a market? Does the technology, if it's a technology idea, actually truly address what I'm thinking? Or at least, do I think it will? Right? So this is both validate, is there a market, potentially? And will the technology work? Or at least will I think it work? Then maybe I do a proof of concept. On a bench, again, if I'm thinking more technology, but even for a nonprofit or something else, you want to do that very first early iteration of your concept. Something that you can put in front of somebody and say, hey, this is what I'm thinking, what do you think? Get that feedback so that you can start iterating about what you want to do. The earlier you can put something in front of the market, the customer, the people who care, the earlier you're going to get feedback, and then you can adjust what you do. The worst thing you can do is say, I know best, I know everything. Start working on a project, go silent for a year, 2 years, work in the lab, just do everything, come out to the market 2 years later, put it in front of the customer says, it doesn't make sense. I don't want that. It doesn't solve my problem. The form factor is wrong. The price point is wrong. All that stuff wrong. So even in the earliest stages, get out there in front of the company. Then maybe a more refined prototype. And I'm suggesting steps, okay? And sometimes they vary. Then maybe a first product. First version of the product. Second version of the real product, and then eventually that thing that I'm going to scale up on and put it out into that market. Now this assumes, right, many things. Now bear with me. I'm going to use technology, but I'll also say, whatever that idea. Whatever that idea is, the most critical step that you have to think about is, got a great idea, who cares about it? Right? Who cares about it? So you're constantly asking the question, is there a fit? Fit between what I'm thinking about and somebody out in the market who cares about it. Now here's where it gets interesting. When you do that, when most engineers and scientists, and quite frankly, any person initially starting something, they get very, very focused on the idea, the technology, what it does, the features, the functions, the capabilities of what it does. Right? So, starting a nonprofit, you're going to really start thinking about all the different things your nonprofit is going to offer, the services, the resources, and all that stuff. And you start fleshing out all these different things. Same thing with the technology. Focusing on, well, it does this, it does this, it does this, it does this. What you're really looking for here is not features, if you will. It's really benefits to the customer. And the example I throw out to my other classes is, let's say somebody came up with, for a pen, they came up with a new covering, nanomaterial covering that had some really interesting properties around stickiness. You know, it was easier to grip, easier to use, much more tactile feel overall. So an engineer would start talking about all that stuff I just mentioned. But what's the real benefit? The real benefit is easier to use, or don't drop it as often. If it drops, maybe it bounces so it doesn't break. So translating features, functions, programs into benefit for the customer. Because what the customer pays for is not what it does, but how it solves their problem. So the mindset that I'm trying to drive in this whole thing is the business focus is about translating what you're doing into why somebody is going to care about it. And how those features, functions, capabilities translate into benefit. Into the other word for benefit, right, is value. What is that value for the customer overall? So who's out there in the market, what I'm delivering, and then the third piece, because everything can be broken into threes, right? Is you have something interesting, you believe you know somebody who cares about it, and the dynamics around that. What do you think the third piece is? You know this, so be quiet. What do you think the third piece is? Got into some interesting stuff. I know who needs it and wants it.
Will they buy it?
Huh?
Will they buy it?
Assume that they'll buy it, okay?
Will it really work?
Huh?
Does it really work?
We know that it works. We've got somebody we believe strongly that they're gonna buy it.
How to manufacture?
How to get it to them, right? And that is all about the team. The team, the resources, the capabilities, all that stuff that you're gonna need to do to pull this stuff together into that credible business. Now I'm simplifying it greatly by saying these three buckets. Technology, product idea, the market, the customer, the folks who care about it, and then how you're gonna deliver it. But the reason I say this is because when you're pitching this story, there's no way that you're gonna be able to answer every little question on technology, on market, on how you're gonna deliver. And the people you're gonna be talking to, potential investors, potential partners, potential customers, they're not gonna be able to understand all that information anyway. So your job is to tell as clear and as crisp a story as possible. Don't overcomplicate it, but as quickly as possible, get to something that knocks down these three elements. What it is, why somebody cares about it, and how you're gonna deliver it, right? So that's kind of the broader level context that I want. If you cannot start telling a story around this, the business model is not gonna make any sense. Because you're gonna be trying to drive a business model into a larger environment that still hasn't really been fleshed out. So when we talk about a business model basically defines how you're gonna make money. How you're gonna make all this happen in a way that allows you to deliver that value to your customer. And in return, what happens? Customer pays you. And, say that a little louder, assuming you run your business correctly, you may profit. But just because you're generating revenues does not mean you're making profit. Those two things don't necessarily go hand in hand. But if you don't start making profit, at some point, you're out of business, right? So the big joke is, right? Oh yeah, I sell widgets, and I sell them at a loss. Every one I sell at a loss. But I'm gonna make it up in volume. Does that make sense? No, I lose on every one, but if I sell 100 of them, well, I'll make my money on them. No, you're still losing money on every single one. Now the assumption might be, at some point you can raise the price, add new features, expand the market. And maybe that first price that you're charging is just a market entry price. Well, that gets interesting because if you set expectations in the market that you're at this price and then you want to jump it up there, customers are going to start saying, well, wait a minute, what's going on? So getting this story straight is critical. How many of you, if I forced you, now it's early, I know it's early, forced you right now to at least at a high level, extremely high level, in a couple of minutes, touch on elements of these three pieces. What it is, who's going to care about it, and how you potentially foresee yourself bringing it out there, making it happen, executing. How many? Good. Want to take a shot real quick? I don't put you on the spot. That's okay, that's fine. That's what you learn about the DifferenceMaker family. You know, this environment, and please treat it this way, that this is a welcoming, supportive environment, and the more the exchange of ideas take place, I can provide you feedback, I can provide you feedback, Gianni can, but also other folks in the room. So get used to sharing your ideas as much as possible, because you never know when that great piece of advice is going to come up. So anytime you come to a forum like this, be prepared, you know, to talk, to share, because it's going to be a lot of work. Take advantage of the opportunities, right? So given this, if you had this story, the question is, what about a business model? And by the way, stop me anytime and ask questions. So what's the business model? Well, here's the assumption. Given the context that I just said, right? Anybody come up with a name for their company yet? For their venture? No? Oh, that's okay. Make something up. Anybody used to watch those old Roadrunner, Bugs Bunny, or the Roadrunner cartoons? What's the name of the company that the coyote always used to ship stuff to? Acme. Right? We'll call our company Acme. Now Acme consists of not only the resources and assets that we have in the company. Resources and assets like what? Your people, your equipment, your buildings, your knowledge and know-how, your intellectual property.
The difference between resources and assets.
Treat them the same.
Assets are like physical things.
Yeah, I'm just using multiple terms, but for the sake, I could have just put resources. Physical, resources can be both tangible and intangible, assets can be both tangible and intangible. I'll just call them resources for the sake of that argument. Okay? So you got all this stuff. And the question is, that all that stuff is configured in a certain way. So you have processes and procedures that take all that stuff and you do stuff with it. You got research and development going on. You got sales and marketing going on. You got partner relationships going on. You got all that stuff. So that's your company. That's the stuff you control, right? Now, the goal is, back to what I said before, that hopefully all this stuff you have is targeted at the customer, at the market, at somebody who you believe is going to care about what you're doing. So that you can align all these resources around. Oh, by the way, this assumes that one of these resources and assets is the idea that you have and the ability to move forward with that idea, right? So you're taking that and you're applying it to a segment of that population that you think are going to care about it. So you have to figure out who these guys are, right? And the assumption is they're going to care about it. And if they care about it enough, you're going to sell it to them. And you're going to sell it to them because you're delivering real value, quantified value. It's better. It's faster. You'll hear me use these terms all the time. How is it better? How is it faster? How is it cheaper than what's out there already? And how is it making the life of your customer better? That's the value. If you cannot clearly articulate what that value, what that benefit is, then they're never going to do what you want them to do, which is what? Give you money. Is your revenues. Right? Now here's the key. In many cases, you're not delivering that value to your customer alone. In this day and age, I challenge you to name any company out there that does everything, soup to nuts. Makes their own materials, configures those materials into components, put those components into subsystems, put those subsystems into the product, take that product and then market it, manufacture it, market and sell it, support it, the entire value chain for a product. It's all broken up because nobody can be expert in all of those different pieces. It's unrealistic. And industry moves way too quickly. So the key is you're probably going to need what? Partners, right? Partners who, in some cases, are going to give you stuff, supply you stuff that you need, materials, information, helmets, infrastructure, right? But you also might need folks to help you get whatever you're doing in the hands of those people who care about it. And the term we use more generally is channels. You'll hear that word time and time again. So folks on the back end providing you stuff that you need, and then folks on the front end helping you get your product, your solution into the hands of your customer, the people who care about what you're doing. And there's so many different variations on this. Let's stick with this for the sake of this argument, right? Now, all this stuff over here, actually, to here, right? Money's coming in, but all this stuff, costs you a bunch of money, a bunch of time, a bunch of resources. And your challenge is to do what? To make sure that this is greater than that. And if that's the case, then pretty straightforward. You make money, profits. That should be your long-term objective. If it's not, you're not going to be able to do what you're doing for very long. unless you have very wealthy parents or some very wealthy benefactor who wants to just keep throwing money at you, which quite frankly, that does happen. It does happen. But more and more, even foundations and philanthropies and big pocketed donors, they still want to make sure that what you're doing is having an impact. Because they care about impacting the world, the greater world, society, the environment, the planet, people who are struggling. The next generation energy technologies, housing technologies, environmental technologies, new models for nonprofits, all this stuff. They want to make sure that what you're doing, they call it impact investing, even from a nonprofit standpoint. You may get some small dollars to start, but if you can't continually demonstrate how what you're doing is having an impact in a nonprofit world, it's having the results in the communities that you're serving. In the for-profit space, it's that bottom line shows a plus sign, so it is profitable. If you can't do that, then it gets challenging. So, one thing I didn't mention, to kind of make sure this is going, not only do you need a way to deliver the product, so here's your product or service that you're delivering either, now you could go directly to these guys or through channels, but in addition to that, there is an expectation as a company, it is your responsibility to market to set preference for your stuff in the minds of that customer, to develop what they refer to as that market relationship with those customers. To tell them all the great things about what you're doing. We do this, we do this, we do this. You should care about it because it solves this problem for you. And we cost this much, which is a lot less than our competitors. And we have a great way of delivering it to you. And we're going to make your life great. So you should love us. And you can do that in many ways today, right? Ways that didn't exist 10, 15 years ago. Like social media, absolutely. Social media, Facebook, Twitter, all that stuff. Which, by the way, people are still trying to crack the code on that one. You know, some people are doing okay, but still challenging. So it's even though you may be getting your product into the hands of your customers through a partner, it's still your responsibility to make sure that they want what you have. They want what you're delivering overall. So all of this, let's see, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, relationship. Those are these pieces of something I'm going to share with you in a minute, of this business model canvas. I numbered them wrong, but don't worry about that. But if you can start to think at a higher level, holistically, you may not need all these pieces, but how the different pieces you have available to you, the relationships, partnerships that you have available to you, the internal infrastructure that you have available to you, how you're going to organize that in a way that delivers that value to your customer and allows them to then pay you in a way that covers your costs and makes you some money. If you can do that effectively, that is your business model. And you're going to need to communicate that clearly. And it boils down, I'm not going to go into financial models right now, but it'll eventually boil down into spreadsheets that show about all the stuff you're delivering, all the costs that it takes to deliver that stuff, and whether you're positive or negative overall. So as you can see here, right, as I said, here's our company, the internal stuff, how it's configured. Here's our customer sitting over here. We're delivering value to them. Hopefully, they're paying us revenue streams. We can either go directly to them or through channels. We still own that relationship building, and we get folks on the back end helping us do it. You know, by the way, it costs us a bunch of money to do all that. Why do we put this up? Because it's a tool, something that you can use as you're going out there and really thinking about how to organize all these pieces. And the way it's intended to be used is in that very way. It's not put a stake in the ground day one, this is my business model, and devil be damned, I'm going to execute this business model till I'm successful. No, it's a starting point. It's a set of assumptions and hypotheses for where you are at any one point in time. And as you go out there and start talking to people, customers, partners, investors, others, you're going to learn more. You're going to understand more, and this is going to change. So you may say, right, that day one, you know what? Day one, we're going to go direct to our customer. We're going to build our own sales and marketing team. We're going to build our own distribution infrastructure, our own support infrastructure, all that stuff, which can be pretty extensive, right? And the reason we want to do it is because we want to keep control, and, as importantly, we want to keep a bigger piece of that revenue that's coming in. Because if I bring a channel partner in, and I decide to go this way, I have to sell it to the channel partner at a lower price. They mark it up because the price they sell to the folks sitting over here are going to be roughly the same. So per unit that I go through channels, it's going to be less per unit, right? But what is also less per unit if I go through channels? All those costs that I just mentioned. Maybe I don't have to hire as many sales guys. Maybe I don't have to do as much inventory and create that inventory distribution infrastructure. Maybe I can scale back on my support. So yeah, I'm not making as much per unit, but it's not costing me as much per unit as well. So there's a trade-off in there. There's no one right answer. But the point of this is consider the different options. Look at all the different ways you can configure these pieces and come up with the best way possible. So that's what we're talking about when we're talking about business models. Business models, how you structure all that stuff that you have and adding to it, because don't assume that it's static, adding to it, expanding your knowledge, your capabilities, your resources, expanding your partnerships and whatnot, and in such a way that you can deliver that value, deliver that product, deliver that service to your customers in a way that they pay you sufficient price to cover your costs, make some money, take that money and reinvest in the business. It starts feeding back on itself, and before you know it, you're doing great. Does that make any kind of sense? Do you feel comfortable in potential? Now I can point you to some other resources, but this was the intent of the conversation tonight, to really get you thinking about, okay, I get this great idea. I know how to make it, I think. But how do I wrap around that, all the other pieces, that allow me to turn this into a venture, eventually? Now, do you need to have all this done for the Difference Maker Idea Challenge? No. No. Would it help if you had a lot of this done? Sure. But it's not necessary. Would it help if you could at least paint a picture of the direction you're going in that tells how you're going to do some of this at a high level? That would be helpful. The more you can convince people, remember what I said? Technology, product, market, team. What you're doing, who cares about it, how you're going to deliver. This is more on the how you're going to deliver. Your business model. How are you going to run your business? Questions? Is that what you wanted to cover?
Well, the point here is that in the very early stage of the project that we're working with right now, and we compete in the different college competition, it's more figure out in terms of what is your product and how that product would map with the markets there.
Right.
Have you really verified the market needs yet? Do you really know who is the one you serve, what is their pain is? And I think I really like the setting or the early part, which Tom mentioned about this three part, the idea, the markets, and the team. I think that's what most of the early competition is looking for.
If you, again, if you
that
can,
three part right there.
if you can clearly communicate the what, if you can do that clearly, in as much detail as you have available to you, with the main focus right here, right? That product, market. Okay. Who's got the problem? How am I solving that problem? Why should they care? If they do use it, how's it going to impact them? If nothing else, focus on those two pieces. That's foundation. Because if you cannot communicate that, who cares how you deliver it? And then you're not going to need to waste the time about all those other pieces of partners and marketing and relationship building and manufacturing and all that stuff. It's not going to matter. Because nobody's going to care. When we talk about difference maker, we're talking about how to take all those great ideas you have and translating them into impact, making a difference. Now here's the reality. Message to everyone. Not every idea is going to have impact. Not every idea is a good idea. That's okay. Because what this also talks about is a process, a way of thinking about coming up with ideas, validating or invalidating, and if you invalidate, move to the next idea. Fine. So when you think about this, this is also a process for saying, what are those things you don't want to waste time on? And that's just as valuable. Getting as quickly as you can to a point where you say, this doesn't make sense. That's more valuable, because it's horrible wasting time, energy, money, resources on something that's not got a prayer's chance in hell of being successful. Happens all the time though. Validate, validate, validate. And when you're done doing that, validate some more. Talk to as many people as you can. Which brings up another point. How many of you think that you need to keep your idea all to yourself? Oh, if I share it, somebody's going to steal it. Oh, I'm evil, evil. I mean, be honest. That in this world we live in, that if I share my ideas, somebody else is going to steal it. Be honest.
Possible.
It's possible. How many think it's probable? We have 1, 2, anybody else? Probable. So based on that, do you tend to kind of keep it to yourself? Okay, I would suggest to you, for all but a very few, that is a recipe for failure from day one. Because not talking to people, not sharing your ideas with those key stakeholders that care about what you're doing, right? And what I mean by key stakeholders, what types of groups do you think care about what you're doing? We talked about one already. What was that? Yeah, investors. Who else? Yeah, your customer.
Team?
Your team.
Competition.
Well, they care, but you don't care that they care. Well, you care that they care, but you'd rather just go, yeah. Who else? Two more. The last one, for some more so than others, but you're gonna want, especially if you're in an environment that requires supportive regulatory or legal frameworks, especially like in the pharmaceutical space or clean energy space or anything like that, you care that there's laws and regulations that are supportive, or at the very least aren't giving you some headwind, aren't pushing back, saying, making things more difficult overall. So, you gotta talk to these folks. But there's ways of doing that so that you're not putting your stuff at a high degree of risk. And through the DifferenceMaker program, we can actually talk to you about how best to not sacrifice going out and talking to these people, but do it in a way that you can minimize that risk. My personal opinion, there's greater risk of you failing by not talking to people than there is of your stuff getting stolen.
Can I clarify into the customer, especially for the nonprofit side? I mean, you look at a customer is the one who benefits from your service. At the same time, customer is also the one who may be funding for your project as well. I mean, they have stakes on it. They believe that whatever the product you deliver to the one who uses it would also benefit for their own they probably support certain beliefs, and what you deliver is actually private.
So in that situation, and there's different ways to refer to that general dynamic, but a great example is, I'm sure all of you have healthcare, right? Insurance, healthcare insurance, either directly or through your parents or through the school, right? So the value exchange is between the doctor, the provider, and you, right? Doing a checkup, or performing a procedure, whatever. So, doctor, patient, right? So the value is being exchanged here, but Sure's the one paying there, and you're the one paying here, or somebody's paying there, right? Sometimes I refer to this. A multi-sided market. Well, why do I say that? Because if you're the person, the company, trying to sell into this space, there's potentially different contingencies. You have to make the doctor happy, make the patient happy, make the insurance company, let's go back with Acme, make the insurer happy as well. An example I gave, right? You have foundation, right? Contributing to a nonprofit to deliver value to the community, right? There's really nothing here in this example. But in that case, if you're the company, Acme, and you're providing something that's making, well, let's not even do that. I'm confusing it. For the sake of this argument. But in this case, right, for the nonprofit, you need to also not only make sure that what you're doing is providing value here, but it's also providing value here. Yeah, forget about that. So focusing here, focusing here. And in many cases, if you really knock down what you're doing here and can communicate it to the foundation, that what you're doing is having impact, that you're solving real problems, that you're using the money efficiently, then they should continue to fund you. You just be aware of that. You have to focus in multiple ways. Question?
Can you give an example when validating is not a good idea?
When validating is not a good idea?
Yeah, you said in all cases, but if you, so what is?
No, I think what I said was
For sharing ideas.
sharing your idea.
Okay. Just validating with the public.
So, Steve Jobs at Apple, right? Traditionally very, I know best, keeping the ideas to myself, maybe share with very few, but very insular, very internally focused organization in many ways, right? So the point is, if you truly do have something that you believe maps to a customer need, and really does map to a customer need, and if you put it out there without even validating it, and it does get some traction, I would suggest that that's, in most cases, due to a good deal of luck, than actually knowing really what the customer wants. So, in most cases, what you're going to be doing, talk to people. Keeping stuff to yourself, I don't know, I've never seen that work.
Well, it could work if you have a formula for something very specific, right?
mean-
But so say a biomaterial, or say even like Pepsi, you keep the formula secret, but you can still talk about the value, wouldn't you?
Great. But in the case of Pepsi, or even Coke, think of yourself, not now Coke now, but Coke back in the mid-1800s, when it didn't even exist. And you're the guy saying, hey, new soft drink, right? This kind of flavoring, and my understanding back when it started, actually did have some cocaine in it. A very small trace of the coca plant, whatever. Took it out eventually, but, so putting yourself in that framework, saying, okay, if I make this soft drink, who's gonna care about it? Are they gonna buy it? Are they gonna drink it?
I'll tell them what's in it.
Huh?
Yeah, but what I think he was saying, or going to his example, when you don't say something, so they have a secret formula, yes, you share with them.
Yeah, but how do you know that secret formula that anybody's gonna like it?
You have them drink it, but you don't tell them the formula of this is exactly what you're drinking. Is what I
That's,
think I'm trying to
okay,
say.
so but that's exactly the point about how to share what you're doing in a way that communicates the value, but doesn't compromise the underlying idea. And I think this is a great example in terms of if you can communicate your idea, kind of like I refer to it as a black box way, right? Like my technology provides this and this and this in this way, but I'm not going to tell you how I actually deliver it. It's just so it's like an automobile, right? Automobile, you're worried more about the interface, the customer interface to the automobile, the steering wheel, the knobs, the dials, and all that stuff, as opposed to all the stuff behind the scenes that make that happen. So communicate what you're doing in a much more generalized way to connect, to hook them, to make sure that if you build it, will they come?
I have a question in terms of the approach then, to identify certain customer pain. Instead of showing the product and say, this is my product to do, this is, helping you to solve the pain or not. But maybe identify the space that the product would help.
Sure.
And then don't share that product, but talking to people who may be interested in that type and asking them what they are doing right now.
So
So that way, basically,
say that,
identifies-
say that again.
Let's say I have a product and it's supposed
Yeah.
to solve some kind of problem.
For the sake of this, you have a concept, right?
Right, a concept,
A
right.
concept about something that could happen.
Exactly. But instead of talking about describing that concept to the potential customer to get feedback, I basically identify that with that concept, it serves certain purposes. But I'm investigate the customer, how do they do it right now? What kind of things that they do to similar to that kind of
Sure,
product
so let's
delivery.
say today,
And then
right?
identify certain kind of problem that they are facing. And then
Oh,
map
yeah,
it out
okay.
to the,
Now I understand what you're saying.
map it out with
Okay.
the
So-
product that I'm doing to make the case of my
Understand,
product.
understand. So I think what I was suggesting is there's a defined market for solutions in a specific space. Right, let's use an example. Drugs, a new drug to address asthma. Let's just use that as an example. So there are asthma sufferers, they currently treat asthma in a certain way. So you know there's a problem, you know there's solutions, you have an idea for a better solution. To treat asthma in a different way. That's better, faster, cheaper, more compelling. So I think what I was suggesting is, okay, you know that people are out there that are using something today. Go to them, talk to them, understand how they're addressing that challenge today, and try to tease out what do you like about it and what don't you like? What's not working? Why is it more challenging, more difficult? And then map that to potentially a solution that you can provide. Is that what you're talking about?
Exactly.
Okay, yeah, that's possible as well. So you can approach it from the market side coming in, or from the technology side going out. Now the question becomes though, right? If you're coming from the market side coming in, and you identify a problem, you're gonna need those, the product, the technology, the resources to fill that. So what we see a lot of times here on campus is the approach being more of, hey, you got a great idea, can I find a market for it? As opposed to, hey, there's a market need, can I find a solution for that? So the way they tend to refer to that as so you're going after it, right? You come at it from the technology side, you heard people refer to that as technology push. I just came up with the best mousetrap in the world, right? But there's no mice. Big deal. I just came up with this great material, this new material in the lab. It's got all these great capabilities, but they don't address a real need. All kind of coming up with something and then figuring out where it fits. The other side is market pull. Yeah, I get this great, I know about this problem. I know there's a segment of the population that has this need, has this problem. is suffering from this pain. I want to address it, but I have no idea how. So then you gotta go out and search for that pill, that solution, that technology. Now, the best approach is a little bit of both, right? That the general technology area that informs a market need, and then bringing those two pieces together. So if there are folks on the team that have those two perspectives. But there's really, I think you'll see somewhat of a balance, but more on the technology push and the difference maker for now. Except in the more of the nonprofit side, because the nonprofit side is much more focused on the problem, the issue, and then trying to figure out a way to solve it, in most cases. So you'll see much more of a market pull on that side. Questions?
If you're saving the government and municipalities a tremendous amount of money,
Oh yeah, that's the perfect model. Yeah, keep going.
if you're saving them a tremendous amount of money, would you wanna, even though they could actually be the problem, would it be smart to market it to where you're not, where you're taking the burden off of them versus, throwing reality right?
There's a higher level entity that cares about what they're doing. So the key is to get to the right people who are driving the broader level trajectory, not the folks in the trenches who are tasked with doing that today. Because if you go in and talk to the people who are in the trenches and say, hey, I had a great way for you to solve your problem, and they may push back and say, well, we're doing a great job already. Versus, the higher level folks, the secretaries of departments in the government, or town managers, or city administrators, or whatever. The folks who don't care how it's getting done, just care that the problem's solved, and that it's being solved in a way that's cost effective, as cost effective as possible. So just, I would suggest in that case, go to the right people, be open and honest, and stay away from the folks who you're kind of competing with, because they will slow it down. Other questions? Nothing else? I wasn't that good of a communicator. Come on. Nothing? How many of you really gangbusters, gung-ho around bringing your ideas forward? Big hands up. And here's the point, right? The school as a whole, from the highest levels on down, are just trying to create the environment and the support infrastructure for all of you to take your ideas forward. Whether or not they're going to be successful. Because the hope is you can start developing this muscle, this reflex, this way of thinking, this entrepreneurial mindset that allows you to identify problems, figure out solutions, build teams, and drive ventures in a way that allow you to solve those problems and have that impact. If you haven't done it before, it's not rocket science, but there are a lot of moving parts. And so giving you as many opportunities to, as well as much support infrastructure to support you in doing it, that's what we're trying to do. So take advantage, and even if this first go around doesn't get help, try again, and then try again. Because that's truly what it's all about.